Welcome back to the crossover and welcome back into the studio. We are finally back home making another video from the studio here. I've had an insane couple of weeks, attending 4 matches in 2 weeks. It's been absolutely insane. But before I get into all that, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. We hit 101 subscribers. I've been doing this for about a month and a half, almost 2 months, and the growth on the channel is absolutely insane. So thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. And now let's get into the Leagues Cup. I was at 4 games, the 2 NYCFC and the 2 New York Red Bull games. NYCFC played against Atlas at Citi Field and Toronto at Red Bull Arena. And then the Red Bulls playing against San Luis last night, and they played against the Revolution, which was an insane game that went to penalties. All of the vlogs for those games are now up, so if you haven't watched those, go ahead and go into the channel and watch those after this video. But yeah, man, let's get into the Leagues Cup. I mean, today we're here to talk about Messi. Messi Mania is officially fully underway in the MLS. I mean, he's played 2 games and he's just been going off. The first one being against Cruz Azul, where he hit that free kick that just went absolutely viral. Everybody saw all over the world, and deservingly so. Storybook ending there, 93rd, 94th minute, I forget what it was. And then he played against Atlanta United. I believe it was 2 goals that he got and a couple of assists. Sergio Busquets also doing his thing. So Inter Miami and the Messi project is officially underway here in the U.S. And honestly, it's kind of insane to see going to these NYCFC and going to these Red Bull games. The amount of Messi jerseys that I see, either Inter Miami or Barcelona or Argentina, even some PSG, you see people just rocking the Messi jersey to these games with Messi not even being there, just showing the support and the excitement that just of him being in the U.S. So I think it's massive for the sport. It's massive all around. People selling the fake Messi jerseys outside of the stadium, trying to make a couple bucks. So he's putting money into their pockets as well. Apple TV subscriptions are up. Adidas, obviously, his jersey, his official jersey, like the real one, sold out almost instantly. They didn't even make enough, so now you have to wait until, I think, October to actually get a real Messi jersey. So absolutely insane. But today I want to talk about the realistic possibilities of Inter Miami and Messi this season, because they're kind of in a tough situation. Not kind of, they're definitely in a tough situation in the MLS, being last in the East. But they're still competing in the Leagues Cup. They're still winning. They're still competing in the U.S. Open Cup. So I'm going to take a look at what their road is and can they get some silverware this year. And I was honestly writing it all down, and it's a pretty tough road. So let's start here with the Leagues Cup, right? So they got first place in the group. That was kind of expected. Jordi Alba also just joined Inter Miami today. He had his first training session with Inter Miami. So Jordi Alba soon to also be on this team. But they're already lined up with a pretty tough game here in their next game as they play against Orlando in the round of 32. Knockout stage game. It's going to be their toughest test yet. It's a Florida rivalry. Orlando, I'm sure they're going to bring a lot of people into that Miami stadium. They're going to be loud fans. The fans of Orlando have already been going around Miami, and to all the Messi murals around Miami, they're splashing purple paint on it. The Orlando coach says, "We know who Messi is. We know how he plays. We know what we have to do." I think this is honestly going to be a very, very chippy game. I would not be surprised to see a couple of red cards coming out. And obviously, the fans from Orlando are going to be loud. Now, I know Messi's played in El Clasicos before. This is nothing new to him. Should be interesting to see if Jordi Alba is going to play, but I'm assuming that he is. But this game for Inter Miami is honestly going to be a very, very tough test. And I could see the game going either way. I could see it going to pens. It's gonna be an interesting game. It's definitely gonna be a fun game to watch, but I don't think it's gonna be as easy as Inter Miami thinks to get past them. And then if they were to get past them, they would face the winner of Mazatlan and Dallas. Mazatlan just beat Austin, given they were out Driussi and a couple of other key players, and then they beat FC Juarez on pens. Dallas lost to Charlotte on pens, but then beat Necaxa 3-0. So it's going to be another tough game for Inter Miami, even if they were to get past Orlando. If Dallas wins, this is one thing I'm not really too sure about the Leagues Cup, being that it is the first year that it's playing. If Dallas wins, I don't know if they're going to go based off of MLS standings to decide who's home or who's not. So, but at the same time, I am assuming that they're just going to do it in Miami because they want to get the most money out of it, and ticket sales and all the rest. They would get more money out of it if they did play that game in Miami. But if that game is played in Dallas, if Dallas beats Mazatlan, it's going to be Messi's first away game, so we're going to be able to see how he can handle the travel, how he can handle the away fans at Dallas. So it's going to be extremely tough. And then on the other side of the bracket, there's Charlotte, Cruz Azul, Pachuca, Houston. If Charlotte were to make it out of there and they play host to this game, is Messi even going to play? Because Charlotte is one of the teams in the MLS that does play on turf, and Messi most probably will not play games that are on turf fields. Thierry Henry did the same thing when he was here. Beckham did the same thing when he was here. Drogba did the same thing. They wouldn't play on turf, obviously, because they're not used to be playing on turf and they don't want to risk the injury. So even if they were to get past Orlando and past either Dallas or Mazatlan, if they were to face Charlotte, how would that go down? Would Messi play, being that it is a knockout game, or would Inter Miami save him to the side? And if they do, can Inter Miami beat a Charlotte team without Messi? That's still yet to be seen. They haven't played in the league yet, so we don't know yet based off any previous results. But Inter Miami was struggling pretty mightily without Messi before, so I don't know if they'll be able to do it. Cruz Azul, they could also find Cruz Azul again, which gave them a very tough game in the first game of the Leagues Cup, even though they did end up winning the game with that Messi free kick. Cruz Azul scored while Messi and Busquets were both on the field, so that would also be a very tough game. Pachuca, tough. Houston, tough. So it's not going to be an easy road to win this Leagues Cup here. And then let's say they go on to the semis. They're probably going to be facing Philly or New England, which are top of the East. They could also maybe play against Atlas. Honestly, watching Atlas for the first time ever against NYCFC at Citi Field, they pressure extremely hard. It was the first Liga MX team that I ever watched play live. They're a very, very, very tough opponent, which I'm grateful that the New York Red Bulls did get first place and don't have to play Atlas. But we do have a Hudson River Derby against NYCFC. That's coming up on Thursday. I'm definitely going to be there vlogging that one. They could play Pumas, which is also going to be another tough Liga MX team. Messi, I'm pretty sure, has never played against a Liga MX team, so that would be a new experience for him as well. DC, the Red Bulls, NYCFC, or Quartaro, but those probably aren't going to make it out. It's most probably going to be Philly or New England, so that, again, that'll be a very tough test. And if it is New England, and New England does play host, can we see Messi not play again? Can Inter Miami beat Charlotte and then go out and beat the Revolution without Messi, Busquets, and Jordi Alba? I highly doubt that. And then if they were to get all the way to the final, they would play either LAFC, very tough opponent, Chivas, America, two very tough Liga MX teams, Cincinnati, which is having a historic season so far, Leon, FC Juarez, Real Salt Lake, Monterrey. It's not going to be as easy as most people think, that Messi and Inter Miami are just going to be able to steamroll past every team. It's not going to be like that, and especially if Messi can't play at Charlotte or at New England, even though I do think that the Leagues Cup will just have those games in Miami because of politics and money, and they want Messi, because if Messi's not there, nobody's going to watch. But it's going to be a very tough road for them here in the Leagues Cup. The final would be on August 19th, and then their next game would be August 20th for the MLS. Now, I'm assuming that whoever makes it to the final, that August 20th game will get rescheduled. But even if it does, even if that August 20 game gets rescheduled, then 4 days later, they would have to play against Cincinnati for the Open Cup semis. Now, this is probably the best chance that Inter Miami have at any silverware this year, just because they're already in the semifinals. But it would be at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, one of the best teams in the East and one of the best teams in the league. They were having a very historic start to the season. So they're going to have to go into Cincinnati after maybe playing a final. If they don't make it to the final, then they'll have some time to rest. But they're still going to have to go up to Cincinnati to play a very tough opponent for that U.S. Open Cup. And then if they do get past Cincinnati, they'll be in the final against either Houston or Real Salt Lake. Still looking at it, the Leagues Cup is going to be very tough. I think that the U.S. Open Cup is their best chance at getting some silverware this year with Messi on the field. Cincinnati does play on grass, so Messi would definitely be at that semifinal. And then let's look over towards the MLS. So now in the MLS, Inter Miami in a very tough situation. They've got 12 games remaining, and they are 12 points out from making a playoff push. Obviously, here in the U.S., there is a playoffs. So it's not just the best team in the league or the number one team in the league to win the league. There is a playoff, so they have 12 games to try to make up 12 points to get themselves into that playoff push. Basically, they need to win all of their games. They need to win out and hope that some of the other teams drop points here and there and hopefully just get into that playoff push. I feel like if Inter Miami were to make it into the playoffs, I feel like they could have a very good chance of winning the MLS Cup. However, can they get into the playoffs? Let's look at some of the games that they have slated. I just talked about that August 20th against Charlotte would be a very, very important game because Charlotte are just a little bit above Inter Miami, so making up some room on them. Charlotte has a game in hand, and they're in 12th, 8 points above Inter Miami. Inter Miami is actually going to play Charlotte twice here in this latter half of the season. If they win the game that they have in hand and both against Charlotte, they would actually overpass Charlotte. So that August 20th game, if it's played on August 20th, extremely high importance. However, will Messi play against Charlotte? It's the last game of the season at Charlotte, so it would be on turf. Would Messi play? Now, I'm personally thinking that if it comes down to the situation where it's either Inter Miami or Charlotte going into the playoffs, I think Messi will play on turf down in Charlotte. However, if Inter Miami no longer has any possibility of making it to the playoffs, I'm sure that Messi won't play the last game of the season because it's going to be on turf. But hopefully they are in the position to try to make it into the playoffs. Or if they've already made it into the playoffs and they don't need the 3 points, then Messi probably won't play as well. But very high possibility that Charlotte versus Inter Miami game, last game of the season, could be a playoff game before the playoffs start. Then let's look at the next game. They've got the Red Bulls here on August 26th. I'm going to try to make it to that game. Hopefully I can get a media pass because I'm not paying like the $400, $500 tickets. It's absolutely insane. They can easily beat us, if I'm going to be honest. Inter Miami could just steamroll the Red Bulls. So I'm not worried for Inter Miami there. The Red Bulls also have a game in hand. We're 11th with 8 points above Inter Miami right now. Then they go back home to Miami and receive Nashville, which is 4th in the East. Very tough opponent. However, will they have Henry Mukhtar? There's talks about whether or not he's leaving. It's still going to be a tough game for Miami, so we'll see there. Then they have to go out to LAFC to play the second in the West. LAFC, always a tough place to play there. They have a very good team. The fans are very loud as well, so should be interesting to see how Messi can deal in that environment. So they play the 4th in the East and then the 2nd in the West on back-to-back weeks. And again, they have to win all of these games. Then they host Sporting KC, which is 11th in the West. They could also be pushing for a playoff run, so they could also come out with everything guns a-blazing. Not going to be an easy game there neither, but probably the easiest of the games that they have remaining, except for Toronto. Then they have to go out to Atlanta. Atlanta right now is 7th in the East. They just beat them 4-0 in the League's Cup, which is actually kind of funny because they beat them 4-0 in the League's Cup, and then they asked Atlanta if they could please replace their field with grass so that Messi can play in Atlanta. And they were like, no, why would we do that? You guys just beat us 4-0 with Messi. We have turf. If he doesn't want to play here, even better. We can possibly beat you guys without Messi. They beat Atlanta in May, though, without Messi. Josef Martinez had a brace, so they've proved that they can beat Atlanta without Messi. Let's see how that one goes. They're 7th in the East right now, hovering around being in the playoffs and not being in the playoffs, so also a very important game for Atlanta. So no easy task there to go down to Atlanta to beat them as well. Then they receive Toronto, and this is probably the easiest game of the season that they have remaining. Toronto on very poor form. They have Bernardeschi and Insigne right now, but will they be there by the time that they go down to Miami to play Inter Miami? I don't think so. It seems like they could be on the way out. Then they go out to Orlando. Again, we just talked about the big rivalry. We just talked about how difficult of a game that's going to be for the League's Cup. They're going to have to go to Orlando instead of receive Orlando for the MLS. They're 5th in the East right now. Again, going to be another tough game. Then they receive NYCFC, which has been struggling all season. They've got 8 points. They're 8 points ahead of Miami, but they do have 2 games in hand. But they looked very good against Toronto. You guys saw in that vlog that I put out, they completely just destroyed Toronto 5-0. But then NYCFC also just got Moussef Bakar, their new striker, which looked absolutely insane, both in his debut and in his second game against Toronto, getting on the score sheet. So NYCFC going to be a very tough opponent as well. They go to Chicago, which is now 8th in the East with 14 points ahead with one game in hand. Going to be pushing for that playoff as well. Then they receive Cincinnati in the second to last game, having a historic season, possibly pushing to be the number 1 seed, and then they have to go to Charlotte, which could be that playoff game before a playoff game. So looking at the rest of the Inter Miami calendar, it's going to be very tough to see them winning any silverware. I personally believe that the U.S. Open Cup could be their best chance. I think the Leagues Cup is going to be very difficult to win no matter who it is, and especially if we're going to see hosts like New England, where Miami is going to go there without Messi. I don't think that they can beat New England without Messi, just being completely honest. But let me know what you guys think Miami could do. What would you guys consider a successful season for Miami this year? Obviously in a very tough position, receiving Messi, receiving all of these eyes, but also being in a very tough position in the league. Do you guys think that they can win the Leagues Cup? Do you think they need some silverware to call this a successful season? Or could this just be a period of integration for Messi, Busquets, Jordi Alba? Maybe go out, get Suarez next year, or just build the team up even higher and push for the MLS next year and for the US Open Cup next year? Is this just a period for Messi to get acclimated, or do they need to win silverware now in order to validate this move? Let me know in the comments below. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys for watching. Smash that like button. Thank you again for the 100 subs. Thank you again for watching all those vlogs. We are back out Thursday for New York Red Bulls versus NYCFC in a knockout round of the Leagues Cup. And then afterwards, the winner will play Philadelphia or DC. Regardless, I'll probably follow whichever team wins out to Philly or out to DC for some more vlogs. And then we're going to take it from there. We're going to see who's going to host who. I don't know. We'll figure it out together. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Tell a friend to subscribe. We're out of here. Peace.
Like the video and subscribe to Crossover.